Hi everyone. Hi, it's Ade again. And I know I always say I'm excited about the vlogs, but this episode, I'm super excited. I have an amazing guest with me. She's already made me cry, already, and we hadn't even started, and I'm so sure it's going to be an amazing episode. So stay glued. Today on the show, I've got Dr. Esther Longe, who's the founder of God in Real Life Outreach. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so my general style is to turn the vlog over to you. That's what I would do. I think even I am tired of hearing my own stories now, but to turn the vlog over to you and let you just flow. I mean, I might ask you a couple of questions, but I'll be as glued as everyone to your transformational story because I just want to learn or want to know the amazing things God is doing in people's lives. So completely over to you.
Oh wow. Okay. Hello everyone. How are we? So I'm gonna start from the beginning.
Okay.
Awesome. I do have a testimony. I have several testimonies, but I have the testimony, right? So I was born to a single parent home. And I'll explain why that's important as we go along. So, I gave my life to Christ at age 5.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I remember when I was walking down the aisle in church, and they were like, "You know what you're doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, it sounds like I accept Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior."
Oh wow!
But as I grew up, I started to have questions because my mom served God with all her heart. The first book I read was the Bible at age 3. We used to go to night vigils all the time, and I'm like, "Well, God, if you're so good, then why are my mother and father not together?"
Oh wow!
So obviously I started to have teen angst and stuff, and I just didn't trust God when it came to relationships. So but then in 2003, I think I was in my year 3 or something in Unilag. I went to Unilag and we lived in Unilag. My mom was a university lecturer and stuff. So I had taken the car and then I went for a party and then she called me as I was driving down Dublin Bridge. So
how do you catch someone driving down?
Yeah. Because she thought I was sleeping, right?
Right.
And then she found out that I'm not sleeping. So where are you? And I was like, I will be home in
Oh, so she called you?
Yeah.
I thought you said she called you.
She called me. I was going to so I found myself driving. So I was literally on Dublin Bridge and I was like, God, is that I die on this bridge? Do you understand? Or you get me home safe. So from Osborne to Yaba, it took me like 7 minutes, and I didn't even know where high rise is, but that's the end of Unilag. So it took me 7 minutes. I was just like, God. So as I climbed, into the high rise, I climbed the culverts and everything. So obviously the car was a mess. And then she just sits me down and she just goes, Esther, why don't you surrender your life to Christ? And I'm like, God is so good. Then why did he not let my mom and my dad be together and all of that? And that's the first time in my life that I made my mom cry. And I don't think it's the last time. But first, And she was just like, well, she doesn't understand everything, but she's grateful for the gift of my brother and I. And so I went to the chapel in Unilag on that day. It was the 7th of February 2003. And I said, God, if you can use anything, you can use me. I surrender my life to you and everything. And so I decided to rededicate my life to Christ. And I joined all the fellowships available. I used to go to fellowship Tuesday, Wednesday, But there was something in me that didn't really trust God when it came to relationships. I didn't trust God to really come through for me. So 3 years later, I finished uni and I am about to do NYSC. And so they tell me, oh, the posting is out. And I'm like, oh, great, because people have been trying to work their posting. I'm like, I'm not going to work my posting. Who knows, I'm going to be president one day. Do you know what I mean? No, I'm not going to do that. Because in my mind, the furthest place they could post me to was like Edo State. Did you get? That's where my mind went. Like, as far. Because I thought I was going to be Ogun State or whatever. And so I was like expecting last for my country. I'm willing to go to Edo State. Oh my God. When my class now called me and said, they posted me to Sokoto, I'm like, what's that? Because the last time I heard about Sokoto was in primary school, state and capital. So I didn't even remember that Sokoto existed as a state in Nigeria. No offense to anybody that's from Sokoto, please, you have my heart and all of that, but so I went to go and check it, and lo and behold, it was Sokoto. Now, just to go back a little bit, my auntie, my mom's younger sister, 10 years older, she's 10 years older than my mom is 10 years older than this sister. She died in a plane crash in the year 2000. So she went for a missionary trip for deeper life to Madagascar. and the Kenyan Airways flight that she was on crashed into the sea. And they said that we're even lucky that we found her body to bury. But that really impacted our family because my mom stopped traveling internationally, and shortly after, everyone stopped traveling locally. In fact, it was only broken when my brother got married in 2014 in the UK. That's the first time she was traveling literally in 14 years.
Wow.
So when they forced her daughter to Sokoto 6 years later, she's like, "You're not going." And I'm like, "Well, if I'm going to work in this country, I have to go." "Okay, you're not going now, try and do something." I'm like, "I've heard stories about people that they miss batch A, do batch B, and they post them to the exact same place. So I'm not going to wait 6 months of my life to get posted to the same place." So she puts me on her lap and she's like, "God, this is my firstborn. I dedicate her to you. As you take her, bring her back safe." So I got to Sokoto, and I went to camp. The first 10 days in camp, I was sick. I didn't show up. I was just like, this cannot be my life. This cannot be it. And my mom was still trying to say, so I thought, I'll go for the 3 weeks and then come back. So my mom was trying to talk to people. They were talking to people. But towards the end of the 3 weeks, she's like, "It's like you're gonna be there." And I'm like, "Cool, I'm already here."
Oh, wow.
So I found myself serving in the airport, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria. So I was working in the airport as a duty flight announcer, which is more glamorous than it sounds. So they have an international airport, and it's international because flights for Hajj go out from there.
Right, okay.
So the flights are on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So I used to work on Wednesday and Friday, but also I had to work Monday to Friday. Anywho, so I was there, and it was the most interesting 9 months of my life. So I used to be an extrovert. So my mom used to say that I'm only at home if maybe there's something wrong with me, right? I'm ill. But then I had to learn to sit in the silence. I had to learn to enjoy my own company because there was nobody. I didn't speak Hausa and they didn't speak English. So it was, 8 to 4 every day. It was me and myself, and God. Now, towards the end of the process, so obviously every time I want to come and I want to fly home, and it wasn't like a holiday, I needed to come home for a specific reason. I'm like, "Mom, I just want to come home for the weekend." Like, "You want to enter plane for no reason?" That's a no, please. And so I'm like, yes, go on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What were you doing between 8 and 4?
Just sitting, reading books, and enjoying the silence.
Okay.
Because on the days that there were no flights, and literally flights are only, they only come in at a specific time anyway. So, and you're just saying, I can't remember what I used to say, but you're announcing the flight in and you're announcing the departure out. And that was literally the work I was doing on Wednesday and Friday. So every other day I was just sitting quietly, which I feel like it was good for me. I feel like I matured in that process. So she was like, "No," and I'm like, I think I was 21 at this time, right? So I'm like, I'm an adult. People fly all the time. What's all this? You gotta go. So October came, and one of our core members who had been with us, but she was deployed back to Abuja. She was like, "You guys come and visit me and everything." So like, "We're gonna go. We're adults. We can do this." What's the problem? So on Friday we left Abuja. We left Sokoto to go to Abuja. Now, when we were getting on the plane, the flight was full because the Sultan and his entourage were on the flight. Now, before then, patience was not really one of my virtues, right? So I used to like to sit in front of the plane. As soon as the plane lands, I'm off. But that day, you couldn't even do that because first class, business class, and even the beginning of economy was full of the Sultan's entourage. So we get to Abuja. It's a nice weekend. Sunday morning, we're planning to come back. So I bought all the things that I know I'm going to miss, in civilization. Such as, I bought Pringles, I bought shortbread, fried rice. I'll just go back to my wilderness season and just eat this food and comfort myself. Now, that morning, I got woken up at 5:30 in the house that I was staying by somebody who came in. And I just said, "Okay, let me have my quiet time." And it was our daily bread. And the scripture reading was James 4:13-17. And it says, "Who are you that says," paraphrasing, "who are you that says, today you do this, tomorrow you do that, and life is like a vapor?" So I pray and I said, "Oh God, don't let my life be like a vapor." But I just praying this prayer. I don't really think, it's just one of those prayers that you pray. So they dropped me at the airport and everything. And I was even upset that they had misspelled my name because my surname at the time used to be Kema Amoda. And the girl out of laziness just wrote EK Amoda or something like that. And I'll tell you why that's important later. So I've never been to Abuja before. But as a Lagos girl, I'm not going to ask anybody for direction. Who does that? So I sat down. There. But the thing about Sokoto is that there's no middle class. So you're either very rich or you're very poor. So because I worked in the airport, I saw the same people that used to fly over and over again. So I like, when they get up to go, I will get up and go with them. And that's what I did. Now, when we were So the plane was delayed because it was being refueled. So when it was time to get up, I followed them, and then we got outside. Now, you know how it is, the northern sun, where it's so scorching, then all of a sudden it starts to rain.
Yeah.
And it was a heavy rain, so I was wondering to myself that can the pilot fly in this weather? But like, I'm sure they don't cancel flights every time it rains. So we get on the plane, and I'm looking for my seat. I'm not upset that my seat is like 10E or something in the middle because I want to sit in the front. So I tried to look for my seat, and then all of a sudden I hear somebody call my phone name at the time, Esther, Kenma, and what, and I'm like, who knows me on this flight? Now in NYC, we had 3 Esthers in camp, and then 2 Esthers subsequently. So there was Esther large, medium, and small. No prizes for guessing which Esther I was, So, but then the other Esther, so Esther medium, and we ended up being, so she was serving in ADC, that's the airline. I was serving with FAN. So she was Esther ADC, I was Esther FAN. So she called my name and everything, and I was like, hey, she was sitting right at the back of the plane. Now, with all I've told you, you know that that's highly unlikely for me to be at the back of the plane. But I just heard a voice in my head, and I just went to go and say hello to her. And then I ended up sitting right beside her.
Wow.
And I sat down. So we're at the back of the plane. And remembering my scripture reading and everything, I just pray and say, okay, Father, we're about to travel, just protect us and all that. But it's those regular prayers that you pray as about to take off. You don't expect anything to happen. So we take off. And this is like 10:40 in the morning, and the plane is gaining altitude. And we're going. So far, so good. All of a sudden, the plane drops. But just think it's turbulence, you don't think anything is happening. So we're okay, continue. All of a sudden the plane drops again. At this point, remember, this is still like 11 o'clock in the morning. The emergency lights are on, the children are screaming, Muslims are with their prayer beads, Christians are shouting Jesus, because something is happening, but you still just think it's really bad turbulence. And so I look out of the window and I hear bow, for lack of a better word to describe it, And then I look back and I hit the ground, I see lightning, and I look back and I'm sitting the same way I was sitting in the plane, but in front of me is grass. The plane had crashed. So, people say, oh, that did you black out or anything? And I say no, but what happened was, before then I believed in God, but that day I believed in angels, because literally they carried me the same way I was in the air and dropped me on the ground. And I say this because Esther was sitting right beside me. The impact of the crash flung her somewhere else. So it's not like, oh, everybody that was sitting in that space, we just were dropped on the ground. So I'm sitting down, seatbelts in, just like this, sitting pretty, my hand luggage is under, because I used to like to travel light. My hand luggage under my seat. I had the Motorola Razr as a cool kid. So the clip was here, the phone was here, clipped it back. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay. It's like a dream. It's surreal, right? But I didn't know where I was. So I unclipped myself, took my bag, and I'm trying to come out of the debris. And then I hear someone saying, oh, please help me. It was Esther. So the impact of the crash had trapped her under her seat. So I unhooked her, and after me with no injury, she had the least injury with a dislocated hip. So we came out of the debris, and then we're in the middle of this field. We don't know where we are because it's still raining, and it could be anywhere because we're in a plane, right? So we could have been in Kogi State, Kafanchan, we did not know where. So I saw this other Hausa girl crying, and her hand was broken, and her leg, and she was crying, and her brother, and in the north, the men sit in the front, the women sit at the back. So I thought that the plane had broken in half. So we were somewhere, and then there were other people in another, place. So I was like, I don't want you alive, they'll find your brother. So when Esther saw that I had my stuff, she was like, oh, she has stuff in her bag. Let her go back into the debris to look for her stuff. So she went there, and then I saw like these 3 ladies, one on top of each other, crying for help. The one on top was pinning the other 2 down. So there was also a guy on the ground, spread-eagled, looking. And in my mind, I was like, dude, we're all in shock here. Jigga, you're a guy, help. But later, when the villagers came, I found out that he couldn't have help because his legs were broken. So the one on top, I went and that's because you could see the white of her bone was very horrible. So I was pulling her up and she was screaming. I was like, at least you're alive. They can fix your body. Now those 3 ladies were the daughters of the Kogi State governor. And I heard that they spent like at least 3 months getting their parents treated. Now in the middle of all of this, we still know where we were. But what had happened was the villagers around, they came out. So what had happened was, because they said, oh, the pilot gave you any warning, and he couldn't, because he was trying to regain control of the plane. What was happening was that he was going round and round the airport dumping fuel. Remember I told you that they spent time refueling the plane. So he was going round and around the airport dumping fuel, and the plane actually crashed outside of the airport. But people in the airport did not know that the plane had crashed outside. So the villagers went to go and get the airport people, and then they came back with like this white pickup truck to take the three of us that could move on our own. And so we're in this pickup truck in the middle of a muddy field, and you know how it was just jarring. And by the time I got to the airport hospital, I had this irrational desire to be as far away from the airport as possible. I had this headache. They're bringing in bodies at the time, and I was like, I can't be here. So I called my friends who had just dropped me, literally like less than an hour before, you know, and I'm like, this is what has happened. So they came back, you know, to get me, and they took me to a private hospital, where the first thing they did was give me a morphine drip for the headache, you know, and I lay down on the bed. Now, in all of this, my mom called me. Now, remember, my mom didn't know that I was on the plane, right? So she called me, she's like, Esther, your airport must be jiggered, you know, agog and everything, because I heard that a plane coming to Sokoto crashed, you know. What's going on? Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. So, yeah. So, I don't know where I was going with that. Do you understand? Because I was like, you don't have this, but I was like, let me just push it forward. Anyway, so my flatmate who had traveled with me, so the way the planes used to work was that they would go from Lagos to Abuja, Abuja to Sokoto, Sokoto to Abuja, Abuja back to Lagos. So the plane was supposed to take me to Abuja, from Abuja to Sokoto, and then come back to Abuja to take her to Lagos. Now, obviously, that never happened because the plane never made it. So she was with me. Now, she was with me. So now, her parents haven't heard what had happened. They were now going to go and, you know, you're going to go and commiserate with my mother. I don't know what the reason is for a cool plane crash, but she was going to go and commiserate with my mom. I'm like, how are you going to commiserate with somebody who does not even know that her daughter was on the plane? So obviously, it was the first that I had to tell her before, you know, because they were getting antsy that I want to go and see her. What's the problem? So I called my mom. I said, Mom, I don't have to tell you this, but the plane that crashed, I was on it. And she now said, she just gave the phone to my brother that I don't know what your sister is. And she looked at the mirror and she was like, God, what's going on? And God said, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. And so she held on to that word through the process.
See how this girl tries to make people cry. Make up, help, stay, go on.
You know, and so she held on to that word in the process. Now, the second thing was that I had to leave the private hospital and go to the general hospital where they were keeping survivors. Otherwise, I would have been marked as dead or missing, right? So, and literally one of the earlier Wikipedia entries said, you know, plane crash survivor deemed dead, now alive and stuff. So I went to it was a military hospital. I went there and they kept me there for 3 days to make sure I didn't have any internal injuries, which I didn't want. So of the 106 people on the plane, only 9 survived. And of the 9 that survived, only 1 didn't have any injuries, and that's me. So I was there through the process, and the next morning I wake up and it's 4 a.m. and CNN is carrying a story. And then I now see the only part of the plane that survived. It's literally like the tail end. And what had happened was the tree had trapped, you know, the fall. So literally, where the part touched the ground is where I was sitting. As I started to weep, and I was weeping, and I remember the nurse then coming and saying, "Why are you weeping? You should be thanking God." I'm like, "Auntie, the reason I'm crying is because I'm thanking God. Please let me have my cry. Thank you." So I'm like, wow. You know, and so my dad now called me. Yeah, so my dad now called me and says, "Esther, you are working in the airport." I'll be, yeah. I heard that there's an Amoda on the manifest. Remember, if they had written Kema Amoda, they would have known that it was me, because there are only 2 Kema Amodas, me and my younger brother. So they would, but when they write Amoda, my grandfather had 13 wives and 4 children, so it can be anybody, really. You understand? So he's like, I'm trying to find out who the Amoda person is. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I'll find out. So I called my mom, because apparently Yoruba tradition, you can't tell somebody bad news on the phone. So she called his brother to go to the house and tell him and so on. And he now called me back and I said, "Esther, but I just spoke to you. Do you understand? Why didn't you tell me?" And I was like, but you couldn't really be mad at me, right? Because like I almost died, so your anger, I just have to chill, you know. But he still reminds me to today that, man, girl. So anyway, I was in the hospital for 3 days. So the next question was, okay, what next? And my mom was like, because I'm like, it's literally, I mean, Abuja is 9 hours to Sokoto, 9 hours to Lagos by road. Where am I going to go? My mom is like, am I crazy? I'm coming to Lagos. Okay. And then my friend worked in Virgin Nigeria at the time, and he's like, Esther, God did not save you on Monday to kill you on Wednesday. So you're going to come back by air. Okay. So I'm excited. I'm leaving the hospital. I'm going home. I'm so happy. So we get to the airport. You know, the airport manager comes to meet us, and he now takes us onto the runway. That's me and my flight. He takes us onto the runway, and I see the plane, and I start to and I'm weeping, and he now says, let's go. He now shows me the cockpit where the pilots were. My dad called me racist because when I got at the Oyinbo, I'm like, they know what they're doing, you know.
Right.
So he now got the
which is the
white people,
which is the philosophy that we have, but really at the end of the day,
in that moment, it was good enough for me. Yeah,
good enough.
You know, it was a
at the end of the day, really.
Yeah, I was like, you know, let's just do this, you know. So they said, do you want to sit with us in the cockpit? I'm like, do I look like I'm mad? Just fly this plane, I'll be at the back of the plane. Fine. You know, so I sat down at the back of the plane. My flatmate was on one hand, this random dude was on the other hand, and I was holding their hands literally for the duration of the 45-minute to 1 hour flight. And I was just weeping and weeping and weeping. I remember they come, do you want? And I'm like, I don't want anything, just let's land. And I feel like God did that for a reason. Because if I hadn't gotten on the plane so quickly after, I probably would not have been staying on the plane for life. So I was about to land, you know, the pilot said, want to dedicate this flight to Esther Longe, one of the survivors of the ADC plane crash. And everyone's like, oh, who's that? And then I said, no wonder. Because if I felt like this village girl, and I've been on the plane before, that's why she's crying like this, you know. So we got down from the plane. People are trying to press money in my hand, taking pictures. I want to write a book, I want to call it God's Own. It was just a lot. When I got home, somebody had called the camera crews and everything. I know it was Channels Television. So my mom put me on her lap. I said, thank you, Lord, as you took her, you brought her back. You know, and I just want to backtrack to something. You know, because we were talking about power of words earlier, right? I used to tell people, and I didn't even know, so I didn't know I was declaring, but I used to tell people that traveling by air is one of the safest ways to travel. I'm like, do you know how many accidents happen by road? Do you get? But if you add them up, you know how many times do you hear about plane crashes? Yeah, but that, you know, so I used to tell people, so I even had friends who they want to travel by air and they wait for when I'm traveling so that they can go, just because of the conviction I had. But you don't even know why you're saying this stuff. Now, so I get back home, you know, and people are trying to come, you know, everybody's wanting to see this mystery, right? And there were so many visitors, and you know, Nigerians, and all the national dailies were carrying it. Miracle girl works out on her, this, that. I would go to places and they'd be like, second Jesus. In Nigerians, second Jesus. I'm like, please don't put me inside trouble, you know. But it became so much to the point where I started having panic attacks. So my mom was like, okay, no more visitors, you know. And the people would call and they meant well. They're like, well, you need to ask God for the purpose of your life. And I'm like, which purpose is this? Do you know what I mean? Because like, God gives you a Bugatti, like a $1 million car, you know, and you're like, what do you want in return? You want my firstborn? Like, do you want to go and be a missionary? Like, what do you want from me? Yeah. So they thought they were being encouraging and stuff, but what they were doing was almost driving me literally into depression. Right. So for 2 years, I was depressed. Now, I was funny, I was happy, as you get to everybody, I could be the life of the party and everything, but I'll be looking at everything from like a third party point of view. Right. Do you know what I mean? And then when I'm by myself, it's just dark. So my parents didn't want me to be, or my mom didn't want me to be around, you know, for the first year anniversary. So this happened in October, on the 29th of October 2006. By the next year, September, I was in the UK, and I was in the UK for like 7 years. So I'm there, and I'm doing my master's, I'm, you know, doing this journey, but I'm depressed, you know. So in November 2008, I was in my church then in Cardiff, and I just felt God say to me, He's like, well, you've accepted salvation, right? Now salvation is the gift of eternal life. So if I saved you, yes, in this life with all its troubles, but I've actually given you a life, a promise of a life that there are no troubles, it's beautiful and all of that. So if you can accept that, why can't you accept this? And literally that's all I needed for the depression to lift. And I was like, Lord, I may not understand why you saved me, but even if it's just to share this testimony everywhere that I can, I will share it. And so I covenanted with God, okay, at least on the anniversary of the plane crash, I will share this story. Because I was a very private person. I used to call myself publicly private. So people knew me, but they did not know my story. Right. So I could count on one hand and say, if my gist goes, I know the 4 people that Jiggers actually gone home. All of a sudden, I'm thrust into this limelight that I didn't want or even seek for, and I didn't know what to do with it. I don't know how to deal with it, especially because it wasn't something that I had done. You know, it sounds very stupid now, and I realize it's stupid of them. Like, no, they want to know my name. They should know me for a Nobel Prize or something that I actually did, not for something I had no control over. You know, it's quite stupid, but you know, that wasn't. What is that? So I need to talk about it, and because if you look at me, you won't know. Do you understand? So if you don't know, if I don't tell you, you won't know. You know, so I didn't say anything about it, and actually and also it messed with my idea of God. Because remember, I was born into a what's the word now? Single parent home. You know, and
you didn't necessarily trust it.
Number one, I didn't trust God, and number two, I was used to striving for everything that I'd gotten. Right. I had my first job at age 15.
Right.
You know, and then God now gave me this gift. Why? You know, and people ask the question why, because the Sultan, his son, and his grandson on the flight, they all died. Deacons in my church growing up were on the flight, they died. Do you understand? Women and their children died. So who are you to survive and survive in such a miraculous way? You know, in the space of 18 months, there were 6 plane crashes. Starting in September 2005 with Pastor Bimbo's own, and then different ones. So the children, you get and we know the 1 or 2 people that survived. You know how they survived. So what is so special about you? Why would God save you like this? And okay, if God is so good and He saves you, what about the people that He didn't save? Those are all questions that people were asking, and honestly, I didn't have the answer because I didn't even have the answer for myself. So it really messed with my mind. So I put it out, you know, and I started to chase after my own self-accomplishment. So I had 1 degree at the time. Before how many years? 4 years without, I had 4 degrees. So I got 2 masters and a PhD. Do you understand? Just to prove to myself that I was somebody and I could make something of my life for myself without any external help or influence. I still didn't trust God in relationships. So He healed me of the depression, you know, and I started to live life. And then we're on this journey. Now, in 2014, August, I started dating my now husband, and there were some things about my life that he didn't understand. And so he was trying to understand that. Just explain to me why these things are the way that they are. And so he started to delve into my past, and I was very good at compartmentalizing. So I'll put stuff in a box, things that I did not like. My auntie dying, I put it in a box. I just pretended that because she used to work in Shell, Port Harcourt. I just pretended that she lived in Port Harcourt. I never came to visit. So I put that in a box, put it under, you know, every hurt, every disappointment. Because I felt like if I actually sat and thought about these hurts and disappointment, I would run mad. So I got very good at putting things in a box and then hiding them away. And then here's this person poking at, you know, the boxes, and I got very mad. You know, and so I'm mad at everybody. I'm mad at God, I'm mad at my dad, mad at my mom, mad at my siblings, mad at this boyfriend for, you know, pushing stuff. And so I go to my church then. I was in Bath at the time, and I go to my church's Church of England, so very, you know, yeah. I'm there, you know, and there are only 2 black people in the church, right? And there were 2 female black, but the other black person was not in church that day. So this couple, they just come back from Bethel in America. They've been there for like 9 months and everything. So they just came back. And so the wife comes to me and she goes, that as I was sitting there, that God highlighted me. That God wants to tell me that He loves my heart. I'm like, and I thought that she was maybe mistaking me for the other black person, but she was not in church, so I'm the only one. Do you understand? I'm like, my heart, this heart that is so angry with God. So I go back home and I sit with God and I'm like, God, if you are so good, then explain all these things that have happened. And so He takes me to Exodus 19 verse 4, which says, I bore you on eagle's wings out of Egypt. And literally He begins to explain to me that the things that I've gone through were literally and figuratively supposed to have killed me. But that He's the one that protected me until I got to the place where I could surrender my life to Him. And I was just like, wow. And so that day I said, I'm not going to fight again. I'm going to surrender. And that became my journey with intimacy with God.
So guys, there's still so much stuff Esther is going to talk to us about, so much is going to take us through. There's still much more of her journey. So if you want to hear the concluding part of this, it'll be posted soon on the YouTube channel. But we're going to close this episode up here. You can see when we release it next time. Thank you. Are there any details that you can share with the guide?
I think the easiest way to reach me is on Instagram at Esther Longe.
Okay.
And then the ministry handle is called God in Real Life Outreach. So those are the 2 both
on
on
Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, and I think God will like add the same thing for Facebook as well.
Okay. Awesome. Bye, guys. So, as usual, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we will see you next time.